Got it. All right. Well, welcome everyone to this episode of the Between Two Teachers, where we talk about our education issues in national and statewide and locally. And that's what we're bringing today. Very important thing that's happening in West Contra Costa. And it's about community schools. And before we get started, I just wanted to say that this district has a big history of community schools, and we'll share more about that as well. So my name is Consuelo Lara.
And I'm Madeline Cronenberg. And we have Francisco Ortiz here. We usually just have the two of us between two teachers, and here we are between three teachers today. So we're very fortunate. Francisco is the one between us. And the history of Francisco is here because we really do want to share what's the good news of community schools and what's happening in West Contra Costa. And Miss Laura has been involved in community schools from pretty much her entire time in West Contra Costa. So she's going to start it off with her background in community schools.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that when I came to this district in 1998, West Contra Costa had community schools, especially in San Pablo, where that city was active in having community schools. They found that that was a very important thing to do, and connecting the community to the local schools. So I just remember that there was so many additional resources there for both students and for parents and for teachers, because there's so much more that students need that beyond just the academics. They need so much more. So that was something that was happening back then for some schools, and some schools have maintained that theme of community schools. And so now also our district is very unique, and we have a lot of community schools, and some districts in our county don't have any, and they don't understand the concept. So we're bringing this to everyone, and we're sharing it with you. All right. So Francisco, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll get started.
And then you can start the screen share whenever you like.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let me begin with my slides. I'm just make sure I have it ready to go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on today's session. My name is Francisco Ortiz. I am a fifth grade teacher at Ford Elementary School in Richmond, California. I am also the vice president of United Teachers of Richmond, and I've been on release for the past 2 years to serve as a community schools organizer for UTR. And so I want to take this opportunity to, again, share my gratitude to share some of the work that's been going on currently in West Contra Costa, focused on community schools. And so, yeah, let's get it going. So two main objectives for today's session is that, viewers, participants will have a better understanding of this of community schools like framework for the California Community Schools Partnership Program, and you'll also have a better understanding of the contract article in the collective bargaining agreement for United Teachers of Richmond and West Contra Costa Unified School District. So as Consuelo was mentioning, community schools is not something new. It's not something new to West Contra Costa or to education in general. In 2007, there was an initiative to have school-based health centers established at all of our comprehensive high schools. And as that work evolved, we ended up having more mobile health vans providing clinical services to students and families, which before were just providing mental health supports. And then additionally, in 2012, the city of San Pablo passed a resolution supporting full service community schools. And then in the following year, our school board passed a resolution in support of community schools in West Contra Costa. Additionally, in 2017, UTR was a founding member of the California Alliance for Community Schools, which really focused on having advocacy for lowering class sizes, having adequate resources for schools, with additional resources focused on our high needs schools and students. Another part of it, which is a part of our new, a part of the state's framework that the California Alliance for Community Schools also advocated for, was having shared decision making safe and supportive school environments, and also having charter account. So where we are currently, in 2022, the California State Board of Education approved the first round of implementation grant fundings for community schools. So this is a unprecedented investment. California is really leading the nation with a $4.1 billion in the community school strategy, which is, in comparison, the federal government has allocated roughly around $75 million for community schools throughout the country. And West Contra Costa secured this historic funding because of the co-leadership between district, unions, and our city partners. I'm one of the co-chairs of our district-wide steering community schools steering committee. West Contra Costa has a co-chair as well. We also have a city representative from the city of San Pablo who's also a funder and providing resources and strategy. And we were also able to secure a family caregiver co-chair position to bring in that very important family voice into this community school space. And so shared leadership and collaboration for mutual accountability really uplifted West Contra Costa and was one of the 3 districts throughout the entire state that was selected as a deep dive site by the State Transformative Assistance Center, which is supporting the community schools implementation throughout the entire state. So it's West Contra Costa, Anaheim Union High School District, and the Shasta County Office of Education who shared, or whose applications for community schools funding really stood out among the rest. And the State Transformative Assistance Center is looking for these 3 deep dive sites to provide lessons for positive implementation throughout the state. And so the National Education Association, the national affiliate for UTR, has a big emphasis and advocacy for community schools. Because we know that just 20% of what students encounter on a daily basis, takes place within the school system, while the other 80% occurs outside of it, within their homes and their communities. So students are often showing up to their schools carrying not only their books, but, the weight of their external lives. And a community school can take an active part in disrupting the out-of-school barriers that hinder positive student development and academic progress. And so I'll share all of these slides with Madeline and Consuelo. I'm not going to play the videos, but I just wanted to just share that participants can access these and also get a student perspective on community schools. And then we'll also have a teacher perspective on community schools, which is on the next slide. So the community school strategy is rooted in research. It's really a strategy that can transform the teaching profession into a sustainable and fulfilling career, as it helps address many of the challenges that teachers face by really creating supportive school environments built on positive relationships, and also the belief that teacher voice and participation are really foundational to school reforms. They also offer an innovative approach to improving teaching and learning amongst diverse interest holders. As community members, school staff really work together to assess the needs and hopes and develop solutions. Teachers are more likely also to stay in schools where they experience administrative support, collaborative relationships, professional autonomy, and a positive school culture. And so for the community school strategy to work, we really want to make sure that the teaching profession is transformed into a sustainable and fulfilling career, and that the conditions that shape teachers' work each day must be improved to support this work. And so now I want to get into the state framework, the 4 pillars of community schools. If you click on this link here, it provides you with the complete breakdown of the state framework. And so it rests upon these 4 pillars, which are integrated student supports, expanded and enriched learning opportunities and time, having active family and community engagement, and collaborative leadership and practices. So I'll start off first with integrated student supports. The integrated student support pillar supports students by meeting their academic, their physical, their social, emotional, and their mental health needs. We really see this as important because growing economic inequality has really profoundly shaped the out-of-school opportunity gaps. More than half of today's public school students, approximately around 25 million, live in low-income households, and this is the highest proportion since the statistic became available in the 1960s. So, young people who are living in these circumstances may experience housing, food insecurity, inadequate access to healthcare, exposure to violence in their neighborhoods, also looking out for the other family. The English language. And so all of these circumstances really contribute to the presence of like chronic and toxic stress, which is well documented to diminish, learning readiness and academic success. The next pillar is expanded learning opportunities and time. And so these include academic support, enrichment and real-world learning opportunities, such as internships or project-based learning. And this is really important because young people spend a small fraction of their waking hours in schools. However, in more affluent communities, students have access to academic support and enrichment beyond the school day and the school year, which includes, tutoring, experiential learning like science or computer coding camps, for example, sports, music, and arts enrichment. And so these students might have more learning time and more opportunities to really succeed in life. And these advantages aren't really accessible to all students. And so due to the uneven distribution of both public and private resources, families that are living in low-income communities usually lack access to these rich supplementary learning opportunities. And then finally, the last pillar is, the next pillar is active family and community engagement. And so this pillar really focuses on tapping into the expertise and the knowledge that family and community members have to serve as true partners in supporting and educating our students. Families who are supported by the school to understand academic goals and strategies are better able to support student learning both inside and outside of the classroom. And similarly, schools that are able to engage families and communities in meaningful ways and really benefit as a staff because we are able to gain access to new and important funds of knowledge that can support our teaching, our students' learning, and really deepen engagement and community building efforts. And then lastly, the last pillar of the state's framework is collaborative leadership and practices. And so these establish a culture of professional learning, collective trust, shared responsibility for outcomes in a manner that includes students, families, and our community members. Really having trusting relationships supporting school transformation through the creation of nurturing and respectful environments where caring adults, community members, and students see each other as united and working towards our students' success. And so that's in a nutshell the state framework that the state of California is basing the community school strategy, and that schools that applied for the grant will be able to address their students and their schools' needs, their families' needs, their staff needs by addressing either all four of the pillars, or maybe even focusing on one pillar if that's something that is coming out of their comprehensive needs and asset assessment, which is also a part of the community school strategy. So next, I want to jump over to all of the community schools that we currently have in West Contra Costa. So all of the schools that are non-highlighted are schools that were funded during the first round of implementation grants. So that was towards the tune of about $30 million over 5 years. These schools here in green were funded through the second round of implementation grant funding. And so there's going to be a new round of applications that are coming up. I think they were supposed to be released yesterday. We were anxiously waiting to see what the RFA was going to be, because we have updated unduplicated student counts, meaning students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, and we're able to even expand the opportunity for more schools to apply for community schools funding that weren't eligible before. So that's really exciting that some of our schools that may not have qualified for the state funding may be able to qualify for this round of funding. All the schools that have a asterisk are schools that have a community school teacher lead as well. And so you could look at the community schools teacher lead application with the way, or with the role description. We also have the community school directory that has all of the principals, the community school director, which I'll be talking about later, who the community school teacher lead is, and a lot of the supportive staff who are making this work possible. Next, I want to talk a little bit more about the opportunities and strengths that community schools have, specifically here in West Contra Costa in relation to our collective bargaining agreement on community schools. So West Contra Costa has one of the most robust and comprehensive collective bargaining agreements in the state and the nation, which is rooted in the state framework. It is rooted in the recommendations for racially just and relationship-centered schools, and it was one of the only articles, it was the only article that was written in collaboration with our community partners and districts as it was evolving, and our community school work was evolving, to make sure that we were inclusive of shared leadership and that we were including the positive school climate embedded into the contract. So I want to make sure that we go through some of these bits and pieces here. And you can also click on this link here, and this will take you to the entire 6-page community schools article in the collective bargaining agreement.
Francisco, could you just mention the reason that's important is that in other districts, if only the board adopts something, it's not a contract. They can't be held to it, right? The fact
Yes.
that this is why this is a really big deal. I think a lot of people would say, well, why is this even in your why would you need to put it in your contract, right? But that makes it a contract that both parties have agreed to, and it elevates it to something that the entire community agrees is really important. And it will still be there as players, board members, and UTR officers come and go, right? It's
exactly what it is. You know, one of the biggest motivations in having it into the contract and not having an MOU, which could be renegotiated every year, is because we know that, especially in our district, we have folks in central office or folks in, in central cabinet positions who come and go, and community schools might not be a priority for them.
right.
But more than half of our schools now currently are funded through the state program, but we have we have 30 community schools out of 54, and that could grow. And so we want to make sure that this is done in community, not done unto our communities, and so that there is that system of mutual accountability, so that we elevate not only our students, our families, our community partners in our contract. It's not just for teachers, it's really built in to empower our community to provide mutual accountability and transparency. So thank you
And
for
this is
stopping
unique.
me there.
I mean, community schools exist throughout the country, right? And I'm sure that they all have different legal parameters and underpinnings in terms of what their documents are. But you couldn't, they don't all have it in their union contracts by any means. Is that right? I mean, no.
No, not nationally. We were the second in the state. There was a district down in Southern California. I forget what it is. Montebello. So Montebello, with their contract, they wanted to start a steering committee. They didn't have the structures or the amount of schools that we have here. So we had to kind of adjust to our context and make sure that we were not only elevating the site level leadership teams, the district-wide leadership teams, but also the regional leadership teams, or a collective impact committee, which is bringing together representatives and elected officials from all 5 of our cities that West Contra Costa serves to really provide a sustainability plan and to also align our policies and to also align our resources to support this important work throughout the district, because we know that students in Richmond might be going to school in El Cerrito, or they just go everywhere throughout our district, and sometimes they not have access to some of the other opportunities that might be available in of our other municipalities that we serve.
So this is the takeaway from this, and I'll be posting this in a number of places, and I know that there are a lot of people from around the country and different levels of education that might see this, for example, on LinkedIn, if I put it on LinkedIn and other places. I just want the takeaway to be that this is really the model. This is the Cadillac version of making something work and showing you have a commitment, right? Is putting it in your union contract and having everybody buy into it publicly, and then have all your teams vote on it. That's what really impresses me about this, and the fact that it will continue, even if the funding stream ebbs and flows, the commitment is still there.
Absolutely. And, one of the other motivating factors was that we had community schools, we had existing community schools in our district, but a lot of educators, a lot of family members, they didn't know what that was, what the concept is. And so this is really another educational piece and another way for us to really work in community with all of our diverse interest holders and to really elevate the shared decision-making and the power that our community has, and that they actually hold, because they're the ones who are most impacted by the decisions that are made, in our schools. And so they're experts in their own field. They are also consultants, and they should be elevated to that type of level. And so we also put into our union contract that we encourage the meaningful recognition, especially of the students and families that are participating on these site action collaboratives. Our parent co-chair, we've fought to give them a stipend as well, because this is really important work that they're engaging in, and so they're putting in their time, they're putting in their effort and their expertise to really uplift this model and to provide as many benefits and positive school experiences for our students and families.
Perfect. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you. No worries. Thank you so much, Madeline. And so the article has a shared definition, a vision statement. We also have the process in which schools will engage in the opt-in process. So schools have to participate. They have to say, yes, we understand. This is how we're going to hit the pillars. This is how we're going to work in collaboration together, as opposed to districts saying, hey, you're a community school now, go implement it. This is something that folks will have a little bit more opportunity and buy-in, so that they could provide the best educational program for their school sites. So one of the highlights is having a site-based leadership team, a community school leadership team at the site, right? So this has inclusive of all of our community partners. They're going to be engaging with their parent-student advisory committees, really having a shared decision-making model, and having training that the district would be providing for all community school sites on how to do shared decision-making, because sharing power is something new. And it's especially in areas where there's, top-down mandates, or in just hierarchical organizations like school districts. And so how do we engage with our diverse interest holders and provide them with the tools necessary to exercise their voice and exercise their power? And so we included that into the contract as well. So that includes 50% of that committee will be students and families. 50% of that committee will be certificated and classified staff members. Also on that committee will be the school administrator and the community schools director. The community schools director is the convener, the facilitator of partnerships, and really the person who is working with the school site leadership to identify what are the needs of that school community, and also collaborating with the team to identify the solution that they're going to be moving forward with. So as I said, the community school director, many of our community school directors, about 95%, are not educators. They are community-based, they're employed by community-based organizations. And so we wanted to make sure that they're also being included as a part of the leadership team. And so they're going to be a member of their action collaborative. In the contract, they're going to be meeting with their administrator weekly and the expanded learning program coordinator, the school community outreach worker, to provide project updates and to also continue to implement the community school strategy forward. The site-based leadership team has the agency to select their community school director, and the position is open to UTR educators or classified staff, because we know that many of our family members, our community members who are either in positions who are classified within district have great connections and could be fantastic community school directors. So we wanted to be able to provide that flexibility for sites to choose how they wanted to move forward with the community schools director positions. We're the only district in Northern California that has community school teacher leads as liaisons between the community schools implementation strategy and also what's going on in the classroom. Each one of our community schools will select a community school teacher lead, and they will receive a stipend to implement this work and support the community school strategy at their school site. And then also providing feedback to the overall district steering committee so that the steering committee can synthesize what is the overall needs of the district and provide those universal supports. So again, one of the highlights, we have codified shared decision-making at the school site, district-wide, and at the regional level. We're the only district that has community school teacher leads, and I really appreciate the flowers, Madeline, and it is the most robust and comprehensive community schools article in the state. I don't think there's another one stronger in the nation, but it's the standard. And when there's when the standard's been set, then we're hoping that everyone else will meet it, and we'll continue to start a broader movement throughout not only our state but throughout the nation. So just I'll go quickly on these last couple of slides. So really it's all about relationships in community schools, building trust, and building the capacity to uplift this school transformation strategy involves engaging as many people as possible, deep listening sessions to identify what are the hopes and needs, and especially identifying what is it that is impacting those families and students that we rarely hear from. And so what that includes, like either home visits, phone calls, whatever it takes to really elicit that buy-in and to elicit that that feedback and to implement that feedback, and not to replicate any previous harms. But it's like, oh, we're listening, but we're going to do our own thing. This is really about listening and implementing what the community wants. As I said earlier, building the capacity of the entire school is really a collaborative effort that brings together various interest holders and really providing the space and time so that everyone feels valued and supported in this work. As I said earlier, the community school director is a key component of the community school strategy to work. And so they're seen in a way as like a chief of staff who's supporting the principal in navigating complex relationships and bringing in partnerships and sending out mass communication to the entire school community. And they're also an integral part as a bridge in between connecting students, families, with the services that are available within the community. And even if they're not available, how do we coordinate district-wide to provide services that might be impacting a certain family at a school site, but that might be further away? And they are not the person who's in charge of community schools. They are not the person who is just a substitute if there's a teacher out sick, or they're not the person who's disciplinarian. They are a key ally in and implementer of the community schools work. I have a couple of other things that are just coming up in terms of like important dates at the end of the month. Madeline, do you want me to continue?
Yeah, please. And the other thing I'd like you to discuss a little bit is there are other members of the community, elected officials, city council members. Tell us a little bit about how that works and how important that is.
Yeah, I don't think I have it in this slide, but so we know that our district is somewhat unique because we serve 5 different municipalities, 5
Right.
different cities. And so we wanted to engage all of our cities that our district reaches, because we knew that the city of San Pablo they've been a real leader, a civic leader in the community schools work. And so how do we leverage that experience, all of the positive benefits that the city of San Pablo has brought into the community school work, and share it with all of our cities? And so we convened through the West County Mayors Association. We were invited, and so we shared this pitch about how we can include all of our elected officials and staffers in the community schools work as it's continuing to grow. And they agreed to have a subcommittee of their elected officials and their staffers to meet twice or bi-monthly, once every 2 months, if I said that correctly, once every 2 months, to identify what are the needs impacting the entire district, and how can we work together to work on those. So Justin, we've had 2 meetings, and in those 2 meetings, we've been able to identify that, you know, after school or joint facilities use has been a big issue for families and community-based organizations who want to use the school's facilities but aren't able to access them. And then the other one was increasing attendance by focusing on chronic absenteeism. And so in the first focus area, which was the joint facilities use, we know that, you know, we have lots of great sports fields. And so a lot of our community based organizations who serve youth may not be able to afford the cost of paying for those fields, which, you know, when you're talking about groundskeeping, janitorial, and maintenance, it comes to about $100 an hour. And so a lot of our youth aren't able to afford it. And so in that collaboration, we were able to get subsidy through Supervisor Joya's office to subsidize that cost for community-based organizations by 75%. So instead of paying $100 per hour, now those community-based organizations would only pay $25 an hour. So our students, our families can access those fields where before it might have been, you know, organizations from, you know, beyond West Contra Costa who could afford to pay those. So now we can. And then in the other area, reducing chronic absenteeism, we've also requested that if we could have that data disaggregated by schools that are heavily impacted by vacancies. And so we've seen that, you know, students come to school, but they don't show up to classes where there isn't a caring, certificated, stable educator in front of them. We've seen chronic absenteeism really impact schools like Stige that has 4 vacancies at their school sites from the beginning of the year. And so how do we support those school sites in providing those safe, supportive, welcoming, nurturing environments for our students and families so that we can provide the best educational opportunities? So those, we've only had 2 meetings, but it's exciting. It's growing, and I haven't seen any other examples of that level of collaboration between city leaders around community schools work.
I love it. I think that that's really an important model that people that electeds need to know, because as a former elected, your constituencies are the same. You're serving the same families. The same families brought you into office as voted for the school board. So what this is doing is taking down the silos, right? And as they do it, as you do it around the community school issues, I think you can also introduce lots of other issues that exist that that otherwise don't get discussed because they're looking at as that's not my job. And honestly, if we look at ourselves as a community, it's everybody's job, right?
Absolutely. It's building up our collective capacity.
Exactly. And that's the incredible thing about this model is that's what it's doing. What you're doing is bringing in additional support services for families that otherwise would not get them. And that otherwise they just do a patchwork of them in different ways.
Right. And when you partner with the city, the community-based organizations, that's the way to sustainability, so that it becomes institutionalized and people will come and go. But this is something that we all have a partnership in, and it's here to stay, kind of thing. So
exactly. I mean, I think the mayor's conference, right, that this group of mayors had, for them to agree to have a committee that's focused on school district issues, that's huge. Never happened before.
Excellent.
Right. And that's just an opportunity for teamwork that I am so thrilled to see have happened. And it just shows it can happen. There are plenty of other places around the country that are similar in that they have multiple jurisdictions. And the idea is somebody just needs to say, it's important enough that if we get together, we can come up with some solutions that we won't come up with alone.
All right.
Most definitely.
I have more questions, but are you finished?
I had a couple more slides that's just like pertinent to West Contra Costa about like the annual performance review that sites are preparing right now. So they're going to be submitting to the California Department of Education on November 30th, their annual progress report of how they have spent the funds from the grant addressing the 4 pillars that they had identified from last year's hopes and needs and asset assessment. And that's done with their community schools leadership team, or the action collaborative. And so as a part of their engagement strategy, share that information with community members. And then at the end of the year, there will be a district-wide annual performance review where we can showcase to the entire community where the community's work started last year, where it's currently, and where we see it heading. And so that's also something that we should be on the lookout by the end of the year as a progress update in West Contra Costa.
We might want to have a part 2 to this, Madeline, because I'm really interested in all of those issues and have a few questions. So, we should think about a part 2 for this.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think also the follow-up to the success that you're going to be reporting out. I think when you do the report out, what happens is those kinds of reports sometimes get lost in a board meeting, right? And sometimes the headline of a board meeting, which could in fact be that report, gets lost in a lot of other things. So I think that one thing we can do is pull it out and celebrate the success that you're going to have, because it's,
well, one of the ways that I think that we can really engage community is having like a community schools fair. Having at one of our school sites, at one of our community schools, all of our community schools have a booth. They can share, this is how we were addressing chronic absenteeism. This is how we were addressing school climate. This is how we engaged families. This is how we address collaborative leadership and practices. And so our entire district community, our entire constituency can come and see, this is what Michelle Obama is doing. This is what Montalban K-8 is doing. This is what Richmond High is doing. And so really identify best practices and identify and learn from all the different supports and services that are available. We're still on the advocacy part of that, and we're hoping that district leadership will make that a reality.
I think that's a great idea. And then I honestly think you also want to make sure that these things get shared out with the public who watch their different city council meetings, because the public who follow their city council and who also follow Supervisor Joya, because he's involved too, right? There are schools that are community schools that are in the county, because there are all different touch points for members of the public to learn, so that they can also come in and support.
Yeah, and then also an area of focus that we've identified as a district steering committee at the support collaborative is really having more budget site transparency about where the funds are being allocated, and what funds are being used, what funds are not being used, how much money is being rolled over, so that families, students, educators can know and, plan accordingly. The other part is about communication.
Yeah.
So this is something that's really a highlight of our district. However, it's the celebration, the communication to students and family is not currently where it could be. And so that's another area of focus that we want to support on a district-wide, support collaborative level.
Absolutely.
All right. Very good. Well, let's see. Shall we close this up for now?
I think
And
we're
Yeah,
ready.
I'll come back for part 2.
yes, please do, because I want to see all of those others slides as well. And this has been so enlightening. Thank you so much. I'm very excited about this because I also want to get to the point of like, okay, how can we help? What can we do? We're going to get to the call to actions piece of it as well. So set aside some time. You need to come back and do part 2 on this, Francisco.
Definitely join your school's action collaborative. If you have a student or if you don't have a student, you can also join as a community member, as a concerned community member on your school's, site collaborative.
Yes, absolutely.
There is
More folks empowered, makes light work.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for all your work on it, and thank you to everybody who's working on the Community Schools Initiative and in the state and actually nationwide, because it's been going on for a long time and it really has made a difference in so many children's lives. But
yeah, we're often a model for a lot of good practices. Really, very
Yes.
proud of this.
Absolutely.
I'm incredibly grateful for you all welcoming me into your space on Between Two Teachers, and I look forward to reconnecting soon.
All right, great.
Forward to having you. So till next time, we'll see you again on Between Two Teachers.